The Stuttgart Shuffle, a Stuttgart service member transition story. Welcome everyone to our new community messaging platform called the OPSEC Minute Extended. On Mondays, we are using this space in text and posted videos to share both a little OPSEC or Operations Security wisdom along with an occasional Marvel team-up bridge that ties into other regulatory security disciplines and policies that our leadership and the Department of Army embrace. We realize reading a page of dialogue is not everyone's cup of tea. As an alternative, please feel free to subscribe, share, like, or simply check out the video of this and other OPSEC Minute stories on our YouTube Secure Narratives channel. Simply click the link and let it play in the background as you tackle your morning routine and backlog of email. All right, enough talk. Enjoy today's Secure Narrative. Preamble. USAG Stuttgart, a manicured corner in the heart of Germany, where American careers hit their peak and families put down temporary, idyllic roots. It is a world of transitions, a constant churn of hellos and goodbyes. For those on the verge of shedding their uniform or closing out a long chapter of civil service, it's a time of intoxicating promise and profound vulnerability. This is not a story designed to make you paranoid. It is a reminder that the oath you take and the secrets you keep don't expire with your ID card. Sometimes, the most valuable lessons are learned just one stumble from the finish line. Act 1. The Long Goodbye. The number was 87. 87 days until Army Master Sergeant Jesse Hawthorne, at the young age of 44, could walk out of the logistics section at the garrison. His 20 years of federal service beautifully rendered into a pension and a handshake. The prize at the end of the countdown was a lucrative job offer from Kestrel Defense Solutions, a sun-drenched office in Virginia, and, most importantly, more time to wrench on the gleaming chrome of his vintage Norton Commando. His wife, Carol, was already stateside, a whirlwind of paint swatches and furniture catalogs curating their forever home. The pressure, unspoken but immense, was on. His mornings were anchored by a ritual at the Patch Community Club with his crew. They were a study in contrasts. Joe Johnson, the Falstaffian family, morale, welfare, and recreation director, whose laugh was a force of nature. A cynical IT contractor named Mark, who saw the world through a firewall. And a stoic sergeant major who had seen 3-star generals come and go. So Jesse began, stirring his coffee. The words had become his mantra. And he leads on a good renovation crew. Carol's list has a sub-list. But you need to be careful who you let in the door, you know? He glanced around the bustling club. And who you talk to about your plans? Do you still have that clearance, Jesse? Some people find that very ... valuable. Jesse scoffed, a little too quickly. Joe, I'm looking for a painter, not passing state secrets. The Russians don't care about my choice of beige, don't they? Joe's eyes held his for a moment too long. That new gig at Kestrel. They do some sensitive stuff, don't they? Come security. A spark of pride ignited in Jesse. He puffed out his chest slightly. I may have written a chapter or two of that book back in the day. It's probably why they want me. He'd said too much, and he knew it. But the validation felt good. Across the room, partially obscured by a pillar, Eric Frazier, the garrison's Directorate of Emergency Services, Physical Security Chief, watched the exchange. His face, a mask of perpetual sternness, betrayed nothing. He had the unnerving stillness of a predator. He watched Joe clap Jesse on the back and walk away. Frazier lifted a small encrypted radio to his lips to contact the Deputy Director of Emergency Services, Edgar Ed Otalara. "Ah," I whispered, his voice a dry rasp. "The asset is engaged. We have a bite." Act 2. The Ghost in the Machine. The trap, meticulously laid, had been sprung. In the sterile confines of the garrison security office, Alonzo Edwards, a man who carried the weight of every secret in Stuttgart, stared at a massive monitor. On one side was Jesse Hawthorne's LinkedIn profile. On the other, a web of connections that spidered out to a gallery of ghost profiles, digital cutouts with suspicious ties to a known foreign intelligence service, FIS. "It's a textbook honey trap," Fraser stated, his arms crossed. "He's not just listing his skills, he's advertising vulnerabilities. Classified document control, past projects, his exact departure date. He might as well have put a for sale sign on his clearance." The confrontation took place in Colonel Sanford's office, the air thick with unspoken accusations. They didn't just tell Jesse. They showed him. Edwards projected the screen from his office. Jesse's own smiling face was on the left, and on the right, the network map of his professional connections looked like a hostile intelligence array. "Sir, I didn't know," Jesse stammered, his face draining of color. The pride he felt at the coffee club had curdled into pure terror. They sent a connection request. "I thought I was networking, building my brand." "Your brand has made you a person of interest to people who do not have this country's best interests at heart," Colonel Sanford said, his voice a blade. "Your clearance is suspended, effective immediately. We've notified Kestrel Defense Solutions that your offer is pending review." The words hit Jesse like a physical blow. The dream of Virginia, the Norton Carroll's paint swatches, it all dissolved into a fog of panic. He was escorted from the building, his badge confiscated. That night he felt a crushing paranoia creep in. Every shadow seemed to hold a figure. He tried calling his friend, the one man he felt he could trust. Joe's phone went straight to voicemail. Act 3. The Unmasking. The Stuttgart Army counterintelligence investigation was a whirlwind. Agent Miller, a woman with a deceptively casual demeanor and eyes that missed nothing, dissected Jesse's life with surgical precision. She interviewed his colleagues, reviewed his financials, and combed through his digital life until he felt transparent. Then, she brought him to a stark, windowless interrogation room. Jesse braced himself for the final career-ending accusation. Instead, Agent Miller slid a thin blue folder across the steel table. "Open it." Jesse's trembling hands opened the cover. The title on the first page read, "Operation Stuttgart Shuffle. Classified Red Team Exercise." He looked up, utterly bewildered. What is this?" "This," Miller said, a wry smile finally touching her lips, "is the script. For the last 3 months of your life." She explained it all. The suspicious LinkedIn profiles were created by an Army cyber team. The intelligence report about increased foreign intelligence service activity was a fabrication. The entire scenario was an elaborate, top-level exercise to audit the garrison's real-world security posture against transitioning personnel. "My job offer," Jesse whispered, the floor dropping out from beneath him. Kestrel was in on it from the beginning. A patriotic contribution, you might say. The door opened. Colonel Sanford, Alonzo Edwards, and Eric Fraser walked in, their expressions now unreadable. With them was one more person, Joe Johnson. His face was a portrait of shame. "We had to know our vulnerabilities, Jesse," the colonel said softly. "The threat is real, even if this specific instance was not. But the test needed a catalyst. Someone you trusted." Joe wouldn't meet his friend's eyes. "He asked me to do it," he mumbled, his voice a shadow of its usual boom. "Just to push you a little, ask a few questions. I thought it was just a drill. I never knew they'd let it go this far. Jesse, I'm sorry. The betrayal was more painful than any security violation. It wasn't a foreign agent who had set him up. It was his friend." Act 4. The Reckoning. In the silence that followed, Jesse Hawthorne was faced with a choice. He could drown in the bitterness of betrayal or swim for a shoreline he couldn't yet see. His first step was a raw, painful confrontation with Joe. There were no colonels or agents present, just two friends in a quiet room. "Was any of it real, Joe?" Jesse asked, his voice cracking. "The coffees? The advice?" "Our friendship." "All of it," Joe said, tears welling in his eyes. "That's what I'm most sorry about. I used our friendship as a tool. Colonel Sanford's offer, when it came, was not a punishment, but a new mission. Your clearance is being reinstated," he began. "But we have a proposition. We need someone to teach this lesson, not from a regulation, but from the heart. You're the perfect person, Jesse. You lived it." He accepted. He and Joe, in a fragile pact of reconciliation, built the new OPSEC transition brief from the ground up. They stood before crowded rooms of soldiers and civilians on the brink of their own retirements. Jesse would tell his story with unflinching honesty. Then Joe would take the stage, his voice heavy with experience, and speak about how easily trust can be manipulated, even by friends with the best intentions. Their presentation became a legend, a powerful and unmissable part of outprocessing. Act 5. The Echo. Just as a sense of normalcy returned to the garrison, a new storm gathered. Jesse and Joe's transition brief was a resounding success, a powerful and unmissable part of outprocessing. Their story had become a powerful parable, but their meticulously crafted exercise, the fake LinkedIn profiles, the manufactured intelligence reports, had been too convincing. The digital breadcrumbs, designed to trap a transitioning employee, had themselves been caught in a much larger automated net. Two individuals, a man and a woman, in severe, dark business suits that screamed federal agency from 100 yards away, arrived unannounced at Colonel Sanford's office. They were not Army counterintelligence. Their credentials identified them as being from a national-level counterintelligence task force that operated several echelons above the garrison. "Colonel," the woman began, her voice devoid of any warmth, "we've been tracking a suspected Foreign Intelligence Service cell operating in your area of responsibility. We have an asset, a handler, and a timeline. The operation is codenamed Stuttgart Shuffle." The color drained from Sanford's face. Alonzo Edwards, standing beside him, went rigid. The echo of their own exercise had come back as a thunderclap. "The digital chatter we intercepted was textbook," the man continued, opening a briefcase. "An employee on the verge of retirement, Jesse Hawthorne, with access to sensitive comms data. A local handler, Joseph Johnson, leveraging a personal relationship to prime the target for recruitment. It's all here. We're here to take them both into custody." Sanford had to make the most humbling admission of his career. He explained the entire red team exercise, the local scope, the intended lesson. The agents were unamused. "Sir, with all due respect," the woman said, her voice sharp. "You ran an unauthorized intelligence simulation on an open network that triggered a national security alert. You didn't just run a drill. You created a ghost that we are now wasting assets to chase. We need to verify your story. We're taking Hawthorne and Johnson to Ramstein for debriefing." This was no longer a test. Jesse, who had just found his footing, was thrown back into the abyss. But this time was different. As he was escorted to a waiting vehicle, Joe walked beside him, not in shame, but with a steady resolve. In a sterile, windowless room at Ramstein Air Base, facing the two implacable agents, Jesse and Joe had to perform their briefing one last time. It wasn't for a room of soldiers. It was to save themselves and their command from a catastrophic interagency incident. With no script and everything on the line, Jesse calmly laid out his vulnerabilities and the mistakes he'd made. Then Joe, his voice steady, detailed his role as the catalyst explaining how their friendship was used as a lever. They moved back and forth, finishing each other's sentences, their narrative perfectly in sync, a testament to the dozens of times they had relived the painful story together. The agents listened, their expressions unreadable. They cross-referenced the story with the data they had. It all matched, a perfect, self-contained loop. The operation was a ghost. Epilogue. Jesse Hawthorne retired with full honors, his file containing a highly classified commendation from the National Task Force for his unwitting but invaluable role in identifying a critical gap in interagency deconfliction. The story of the Red Team exercise and its chaotic high-stakes aftermath became the stuff of legend. A few weeks later, Jesse received an offer. It wasn't just a senior role. It was a newly created position at the Pentagon's Joint Staff, tasked with designing and stress testing Red Team exercises for the entire Department of Defense, ensuring the Stuttgart Shuffle echo would never happen again. His experience was no longer just a cautionary tale. It was now a critical qualification. On his last day in Stuttgart, he sat across from Joe at their usual table at the Patch Community Club. The friendship, once broken by betrayal and then reforged in reconciliation, had finally been tempered into an unbreakable bond by a shared trial by fire. "You know," Jesse said, a deep wry smile on his face, "for a while there, I was really worried about my beige walls." Joe shook his head, a quiet moment of reflection before his laugh finally returned to its full room, filling boom. "Turns out," he said, "they almost caused an international incident." Thank you for sticking around as we continue testing the boundaries of an extended storyboard. Think of it as security training with a plot twist and a fresh way to both educate our team and connect with our military community. Subscribe to our Secure Narratives YouTube channel, share or hit us with a like, and watch our new uploads. Also, if you have other suggestions or ideas or are interested in a personalized name drop or your work center's inclusion to our tales, don't hold back. Send a quick note, or use the interactive customer evaluation system to share your thoughts. We're all ears and ready to make things even better. So, until next Monday's OPSEC Minute Extended, keep those comments coming and stay engaged.